Hello, good evening,
हाँ
Justice
जी, गुड
S N
हाँ
Aggarwal. Good evening.
हाँ गुड
So
इवनिंग
we are talking about your very revolutionary book,
हाँ
and
जी
it is on the revolutionaries shed their blood for India's independence, Part One.
हाँ जी
So in this series, we are now talking about the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy.
हाँ जी
So, as we know that many people were killed or injured in this
हाँ जी
tragedy,
हाँ
and
जी
the protesters or people who were involved, they were peacefully sitting over there and discussing something,
हाँ जी
and without any warning,
हाँ जी
the police or army of the British Empire, they came over there and started firing
हाँ
without
जी
any provocation or without any pre-intimation.
हाँ जी
So this is what we, as a layman, I know about this. So could you
हाँ
please
जी
throw some light about its background and how it happened and what were its consequences?
हाँ जी प्रदीप जी, ये जलियांवाला बाग ट्रेजेडी took place actually on April 13, 1919. The facts in the background are when the war was going on, World War One was going on, and in 1617, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Annie Besant, they had started a home rule movement because British were involved in the war. They said that we must be given independence or self-rule country. So the war came to an end in end of November 1918. But the British, in order to punish us, they brought two bills. The first bill was the Criminal Law Emergency Powers Bill, and the second was the Criminal Law Emergency Powers Bill. The second bill was so serious that no lawyer, no argument, no law, the man was sent to jail immediately without trial. So that was very serious law which they were breaking. So Mahatma Gandhi was at that time in the forefront in the country. He thought he wrote to the Prime Minister, Governor General's PA, that you stop these laws, failing which we will have to resort to some strike or etc. So it started in February 1919. Ultimately, his letters were not replied, and Mahatma Gandhi started the Satyagraha. Satyagraha pledge was being given to the people that uh, its language was specific that we will abide by the firm, by the Satyagraha pledge, and that the British would be made to withdraw those bills. But the British, after all, they were made of very criminal stuff, and they were not going to withdraw the bill. So ultimately, the bill was passed. One bill was passed, the other bill was withdrawn. The bill which was passed was very cumbersome, which I said that no lawyer, no argument, no law, send the man in without trial. So it was objected to in the Legislative Assembly also. And Mahatma Gandhi declared that on March 6, 1985, sorry, 1919, it would be Satyagraha pledge would be Satyagraha would be started. But time was spent in writing letters and getting reply, etc. So first date of Hartal was given as March 30, 1919. So there were two leaders of Amritsar who were virtually the towering personalities, and they were followed by all the residents of Amritsar like God's voice. One was Dr. Kichlu, the other was Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu and Dr. He was Bar at large, Kashmir, he was a Kashmiri, and the other was a Hindu Khatri, Dr. Satyapal. So Munshi Ram, who later on was converted himself into Swami Shardanand, he was also at that time there. So when this Satyagraha took place in Delhi, there were some skirmishes or some lathi charge or some injuries were made. The Satyagraha on of Amritsar on 29th, 30th March was complete. But when because of the some untoward incidents in Delhi, the people said that we would observe the strike or the Satyagraha on 6th April also. So, in a private meeting held by Dr. Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal, they took the view also, although their strike or Satyagraha was completely successful on 30th March, they said that as in Delhi, they would uh, also hold strike on April 6th. So the people were so much at that time, Michael O'Dwyer, he was the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab. He wanted to uh, crush the movement of Amritsar people. So he was intentionally interested to bring Dyer. He was posted in Jalandhar. He brought him. Many incidents took place in the meantime, and on 10th April, the Deputy Commissioner called both Dr. Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal to DC's residence. They were, but these were the two brilliant leaders of Amritsar people, and they were sent to somewhere else. And when the people tried to go toward the DC's residence, they were attacked by the army on the bridge. So many were injured, some were, one or two died also. So on the 11th, they, with the dead bodies, they took the trial, uh, took the procession throughout the city, and they made the people know. Everybody was boiled against the British government and British people, governors. Or so ultimately, when General Dyer came in, he made an announcement in the whole town that no gathering would take place on April 13 in Jallianwala Bagh, but the people were insisting that they would hold a procession, hold a meeting in Jallianwala Bagh to protest against the arrest of these two leaders. Then there was also a ban over these two leaders to speak or address the public or something. Ultimately, when they uh, General Dyer when made public announcement that no gathering would be held in Jallianwala Bagh, the Amritsar people, they after that they made announcement that yes, public meeting will be held in Jallianwala Bagh. Time was also mentioned, and at that time, uh, when this General Dyer, he kept his office in the city, not in the police lines. So when he came to know how much people had gathered, somebody said that there may be more than 2,000, 3,000 people. In the meantime, General Dyer and with his forces proceeded towards the Jallianwala Bagh. he kept side on one people on 25 troops on one side and the 25 troops on the other side. There was a small gate, as you must have seen, and there was a well, and the walls were very high. So when he entered at that time, there was gathering of about 9,000 or 10,000. So he gave the order to the troops to open fire. When he saw one or two police people who were firing towards the ground, he said, "Why fire low, fire high?" So it was virtually meant for killing everybody, whosoever had gathered there. So ultimately, the firing started. All the police people exhausted all the bullets within their pistols or the ornaments. And when every last goalie was spent, then they withdrew. And it was about 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. And then they issued the order that whosoever, nobody will come out of the prison, out of the house after 8 p.m. Even the persons who were dead were not uh, allowed to go for burning
So,
or cremation ground. And earlier he had declared uh, one lady. She started laughing earlier on 10th April when they were beaten and by the army. They said, "Do you deserve this?"
mhm.
So Amritsari were very much perturbed, and they started telling them that they killed her. And that street they made the keeping order that nobody can walk straight on the line. He could go just by bending himself. So ultimately, this incident took place while the number of killings were much more. So, Lala,
And this, sir, and this Golden Temple is just very near to Jallianwala Bagh.
just very near, but
And
the gathering had taken place in Jallianwala Bagh.
so, was there no retaliation from armed guards of a Golden Temple?
There was no, balki the Golden Temple people honored the General Dyer.
Oh, I see.
Huh?
Okay.
Uh,
That is a very strange part.
bilkul.
Okay,
But
okay.
Sir Rabindranath Tagore, he had, when he learned about Jallianwala Bagh, he resigned from his noblehood and asked. Similarly, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was selected in ICS services. He also returned the his ICS degree, and ultimately somebody remarked that no, when it was found that about 291 people had died, and number of three which became higher than that. It was 381, and many were injured. Uh, Ultimately, the number of killed came out to be 487. Then there was a memorial was raised. Somebody raised the was that Bahar of Plassey brought in the British rule, and the Jallianwala Bagh brought the end to that rule. It was so much sad. Talking any question on the Jallianwala Bagh incident?
Ji. So, what after this happened, after this Jallianwala Bagh happened, how
Uh,
it influenced the freedom struggle subsequently?
it was the beginning of when there was a revolt throughout the country. The people were anguished over this unnoticed, uncalled, without notice firing at the people and
Mhm.
without stopping. This when the General Dyer was put on trial, he
Hmm.
said, yeah, yes, I finished only when the last shot was had taken place. If there had been more guns, more shots, he would have continued demoted by the government, and ultimately he suffered a serious
But
illness.
sir,
And
it means that General Dyer had the support of people of Golden Temple.
no, not much. No, he didn't have. But
Acha.
because certain incident had taken place, they honored him. Of course, they regretted later on, but they didn't support this movement.
Acha.
The Jallianwala Bagh incident was not supported by them, but they honored because possibly for different reasons.
So this incident was a big tragedy,
Uh,
but it fueled the freedom struggle,
uh.
and ultimately we the Britishers had to declare independence in 1947.
Then two inquiry commissions were made. One was led by this British people. They constituted their own inquiry, and the Congress government constituted its own inquiry. Uh, even the British inquiry reported that the General Dyer had exceeded his jurisdiction, and he
Hmm.
should not have done it. And the Congress committee, Motilal Nehru was elected as the president of that Congress session, which had taken place. And so far as General Dyer was concerned, he had fallen ill, and he was demoted and he fallen ill, and ultimately he died in 1927. Said that I'm going and my God, my maker would decide. The last word was, thank you. He murmured, I don't want to be better. When he had fallen ill, he had suffered leprosy, paralysis also. So many people who knew the conditions of Amritsar, I did right. But many people say I did wrong. I only want to die and know from my maker whether I did right or wrong. And he died in the evening of July 23, 1927.
Another question comes to mind is that what was the role of schools and colleges during those times? Because many of the schools and colleges might be controlled by Britishers, and some might
No,
be.
you are right. Many of these government schools were controlled by the government only. Lekin, but the kind of people, those schools, they were national outlook boys. When such a tragedy had taken place, no child whose heart was burning for the nation's liberty could remain silent. And there were many DAV schools, etc., because by then, the Dayanand Saraswati, he had died in 1885. Uh, 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 and he had Lajpat Rai, etc. They were his big followers. And DAV, there was a national bank also had opened DAV schools, colleges. These were all also opened, and there were great progress thereafter. So
And
in the main,
was at that time RSS was also in picture? Jansang, Jansang.
RSS, I think it came into picture later on,
Okay.
uh, in 1940s or
Acha. Or I think 1930 or so.
maybe.
1930.
Uh,
Uh, uh,
but Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, he had died during this Abdullah's rule in Kashmir.
So I think the teachers in schools and colleges must have inspired their students also,
Yes,
and they must have given their opinion about all what is happening in the country. and
Yes.
and we know that teachers have a lot of influence on the psyche of the students.
Huh.
So, and one of those students is, I think, Shahid Udham Singh.
Shahid Udham Singh, he was not the student. He was virtually, he belonged to this Sunam.
uh,
He was an orphan child and was admitted in Amritsar orphanage.
Acha, okay,
Huh. So at
okay.
that time he was a young boy and he was serving water to the people who had assembled in this Jallianwala Bagh.
At that
So
time, he
he
was,
had
I think, 19 or 20-year old.
something like that.
So,
But
was he
ultimately,
not educated at that time, 19 or 20-year old?
he was not educated even. He was Khalsa orphanage. He was admitted and then he had his brother had also died. He alone remained. Sometimes he used to become British by his dress, and he has gone to London also. Then he called from there to Shahid Bhagat Singh. At that time, Bhagat Singh was alive, and so he brought something for Bhagat Singh, some guns, etc., some pistols with a German lady, and he was sentenced for 5 years in India. Then he again went to uh, England, and he had a strong mind that he would take the revenge from Lieutenant General O'Dwyer, who was at that time at Jallianwala Bagh's time was the Governor General of Punjab. So he got an opportunity. There was, as I told you, India House. India House at that time, there was adjoining to the India House, a poster was pasted that some meeting would take place uh, in a particular hall, which was to be. Hmm. Alfred further wrote, Uttam Singh had been to India House on Tuesday, March 12, 1940, and he had seen a poster advertising a joint meeting on the next day, East India Association and Royal Central Asian Society at Caxton Hall. It was the speakers were one of the speakers were Michael O'Dwyer. So he started living in the Gurdwara. He started living in the Gurdwara, and there he called his people there. He called in one day before, after reading the poster, he called his friend to a particular hotel and gave them laddu party and all this. He said, tomorrow you will see what incident takes place and I will become immortal. Ultimately, he hid a pistol in his pocket and he remained stuck to the wall. By going ahead, he almost reached near the platform. About 180% had taken place. So many people, including Michael O'Dwyer and some 4 or 5 other VIPs, were sitting on the dais, and he took out a pistol, fired 2 shots from a
Hmm.
distance of 9 inches only.
Sure, 9 inches. Okay, okay.
Just he had reached near the dais, and this one Marquis of Jetland, he was toppled from the chair and fell down. And another bullet shattered in the right hand of Lord Leamington. And while actual hit was Michael O'Dwyer, he had given his name as Muhammad Singh Azad, giving his name. And the second day, when he was produced in the court, he said, Mahatma Gandhi also reached there. He told that this Azad, Shahid Udham Singh was a madman. And Nehru also said his act was a senseless deed. These people were very hostile to the revolutionaries. And when he was tried, he told that yes, his name is Shri Uddam Singh, and he defended the British. He told his Gurdwara people who wanted to defend him that don't defend him. I had intentionally committed the murder of this Odwyer. But still, the people of India who were living in London, they filed an appeal, but that was of no use. When he, when this man was asked about what they have done, what he has done, he said that yes, I am dying for a purpose. I don't care about the sentence of death. It is but not worrying me. I am dying for a cause. He shouted because I had a grudge against this man. He deserved it. He was a real culprit. He wanted to crush the spirit of my people. So I have crushed him. I am happy. I have done the job. I am not scared of death. I am dying for my country.
Actually,
So
his,
ultimately,
sir, his remains were brought later on in 1974.
yes.
So
When Gen
how his remains were preserved in
It might be because after all dead body was handed over to the Gurdwara people there.
Acha,
So I don't think that they burn the bodies.
okay,
They they only put it under the earth.
okay,
I think, huh?
acha,
So I think because Gurdwara people were in charge of dead body of Gyani Jail, this man Shahid Uddam Singh. Therefore, some remains must be there in the Gurdwara. So it was brought back. So ultimately kept in the Golden Temple also, and then brought to his village as near Snam, and it was a memorial was raised to him. It was done when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister and Gyani Jail Singh was the Chief Minister of Punjab. So that
So
ended the.
was Uddam Singh influenced by Congress policies at that time?
No, 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 no. He was not. He was in touch with Bhagat Singh. Sheikh Bhagat Singh. He was in touch. He had brought some arms from them along with a German lady and given it, and he went himself was imprisoned for 5 years. So from 1919 up to 1940, there was a long distance between these two incidents. So all this time was spent by him in revolutionizing himself, and he was not nowhere near the British, the Congress policy. He was virtually revolutionary.
And since he was just an orphan, and
Huh.
after Jallianwala Bagh incident,
Huh.
he had completed his matriculation,
Yes,
and he then traveled to America, and
yes, that's right.
then to England.
Huh.
So how he managed to travel to America and England?
He used to manipulate documents. He
Okay.
named his Ram Muhammad Singh Azad. He kept his name like that. So he was that way not very means real sense as Veer Savarkar was. Veer Savarkar remained Veer Savarkar wherever he was. So he distinguished his personality. He differentiated. So he was the revolutionary
He
ultimate
was
because the
he acted like a James Bond at that time.
well, you can say that because
Mhm.
he had seen the Jallianwala people dying themselves. So that was a scene which was fresh in his mind always. So he did what he could. And ultimately, when he came to know that his meeting was taking place
Hmm.
in Caxton Hall, so he prepared for that to kill murder O'Dwyer.
So after he killed the those British officers,
Huh.
what was its impact on freedom movement?
So this is the freedom movement, that he took the revenge of Jallianwala incident from this man, Ottaway, who was
Please,
Lieutenant Governor at that time.
that is
He
okay.
killed
But
him.
yeah, so after he, I think this incident happened in around 1940.
Huh.
So we got independence 7 years after that.
Yeah,
So,
that is right.
so what happened during those 7 years?
No, nothing to do with Udham Singh at that time.
Okay,
Huh? Other
acha.
incidents were taking place, like Lala Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. They were fighting their own battle.
Hmm. And
Actually, Netaji Bose's fight started from January 1941, when he
okay,
escaped from his house.
okay.
Huh?
And I think Second World War also started somewhere around that, no? 19.
Second World War started 1939,
Okay, okay.
and it was still going on when Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose joined it.
Hmm.
In the wake of Second World War, uh, he was fighting against the British with the Japanese and with the German people or something. Huh?
So the remains of Udham Singh were brought to India for political reasons, or for they had a lot of respect to him.
It was brought only for political reasons.
Hmm.
Otherwise, the India had become independent in 1947. They
Hmm.
would have brought, if they had been interested, Congress people had been interested in him. If
Mhm.
they would have brought in 1947,
Mhm.
Congress people had no sympathy for the revolutionaries. It was
Okay.
Gyanni Jail Singh. He wanted to shine his own name. That was why he did it. Otherwise, Gyanni Jail Singh was uh, just a mere congressman who could pick up the shoes of Sanjay Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi or this man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, sir. So very good insight into this story of Jallianwala Bagh and this Shaheed Udham Singh.
Huh.
Right, sir. Right. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.